Actually had some water damage too from a flood.
Start now.
It wasn't about what I wanted, it was about what he wanted.
Just go there, the right people are there.
I'm not afraid to fail.
Am I willing to write in that check? Absolutely. All day long.
California real estate, you can't go wrong. So
But then since you've made your, I mean, that's why you're here. Because
so when I started going to seminars, this is a great lesson. I started going to a lot of seminars.
Okay.
And I went online. I'm just looking for like, because some of the books tell you go to real estate clubs, find these what they call RIAs, Real Estate Investors Association meetings. So I'm looking for these, and I start going to them. And every month there's a huckster, and he's selling some dream. You know, there was some of them, I won't mention their names, but some of them are just. I would look at it and be like, these guys are straight up criminal what they're doing. You know, the stuff they're talking about. And a good clue, a dead giveaway is they're in front of you and they're showing you, you know, them or their daughter in some expensive high-end automobile, which I find is the exact opposite of what the most successful investors I know don't drive cars like that.
Which we'll talk about that because your core group of people,
they're all driving pickup trucks.
They all drive pickup trucks. Yeah, they're multi-millionaires, and you chose them as your mentors, which is important.
And it's funny because there's a guy that just came out recently as far as he did like a little post about what he bought. He went and bought a used pickup truck. Wow. Right? People who are in real estate, the pickup truck is the landlord's truck, right? So I've been driving pickup trucks for years. So if they're on stage and they're dressed like super expensive suits and this, they're doing this with their expensive Rolex. You buy that course, you're funding that lifestyle. You're not going to learn anything. I don't care what they do. There might be the few who get it and pull something out of it, but most of those people are just dream merchants. Okay. And I was very. I wasn't making much money, so I was extremely conservative with the cash that I had. I knew that if I spend money, I need to get maximum return on that money. Right. So I can't spend. And there were a lot of times I was tempted, like, man, this guy's telling me $3 grand.
They're good.
He's all these promises, man. He's gonna help me. This guy's gonna help me out. Good. You call it, dude. You never get him on the phone, right? Yeah. But him and his wife is here, and they're such nice people, and man, they're gonna help me out. They're promised me the world. And there were times where I was tempted. Don't get me wrong. I was like, man, I should just do it because I'm not getting any traction. Maybe that's what I need to do is just spend the money, and that'll give me the traction. But that's not the case. It's just it's just a dream. So I was going to all these clubs, and I started to go to every single club in Southern California. So probably once or twice a week, I was driving from Irvine to San Diego to LA. There were a couple in Orange County. There were a lot less then than there are now. Now it's out of control. But there was probably 3 or 4. So once a week at least, I was going to these club meetings. And there was one in particular that was near my house. And I was going there consistently, and the speakers there were just toxic. They were, I later learned that other club owners refer to this as the Shark Tank, right? So that's where they send the newbies show up and they just eat their money, right? They have these people come in. So I'm going to this club, and it's at a DoubleTree hotel. Now, if you ever been to a DoubleTree or stayed at a DoubleTree, they have the best cookies in the world. Okay. Right, and I'm a cookie guy, right? Cookie and coffee. That's my that's my weak spot. So I'm going to this meeting, and it came to a point where I'm showing up only for the cookies, and I realized that. Right, so I'm waiting for them to bring the refreshments, right? Yeah. And I'm at the meeting, and I don't care what this guy's saying, what property system buying nonsense he's talking about. I'm waiting for so I'm paying $25 for cookies, right? So the cookies, and I'm giving like 5 of them, like eating cookies, and and then I went home, and it kind of hit me at that point. It cracked the shell, right? At the meeting, it cracked the shell that. That's what I'm doing. I'm spending $25 to come here and basically eat cookies. Yeah. So I went home, and I had a stack. I'd gone to a Marshall Silver class on the weekend, right? So I don't think he's popular anymore, but at the time he had these courses. I went to his class, and I paid probably $100, and I expected him to show up, right? Because I paid $100 for Marshall Silver. He never came. It was his little lackeys who showed up, right? And I got a couple of books there. And I went home and I started looking at these books, and I realized these are just photocopies all stuck together and bound. It was nothing of content. It was just, in my opinion, it was garbage, right? So I'm looking through, and the thing's this thick, and it's just photocopies of newspaper articles, and just it just looked like somebody in an office with an inkjet printer ran this thing off and bound it. And I was like, and they're calling this a book, a real estate book, and I'm looking through, and I had a stack of them underneath my I had a glass coffee table, and I was sitting in my chair, and I was looking at them, and they had dust on them now because they'd been there for a while. And I pulled one out, I started looking through it, and I was so frustrated that I couldn't figure out how to make anything happen in this business. And I've been there, it's like, man, I don't know what to do, and I see these people selling these courses, and maybe I need to do that. But I found a name in there that I recognized. I'm like, man, I met this guy at a meeting before.
Who was it?
His name was Steve Dexter.
Okay.
Right. So I called him. His phone number was in there, and he was one of these mentors for I don't know which not guru, but he was one of these. He had a local little RIA, and he was kind of a mentor, but he was a straight shooter. He was a good guy, right? But I'd seen his name in there, and I was really and I just called the number. And I just started unloading on him. I'm like, I've had it with these people trying to rip me off. I didn't even know the guy, right? But I just remember seeing him at a meeting, and there's his name in this book. Well, there's credibility, right? He's in a book. Yeah. So I call he's on a train on vacation, like traveling across America. And he's just like, just listens to me, right? He's on a train to probably didn't have anything to do. He's just listening to me unload, just vent on him, right? And he finally says, calm down. He's like, you need to go to Jack Fullerton's meeting in Orange County, California. It's called the Commonwealth Meetings. It's the oldest club in California. You need to go there. And I was just like, I'm not. He's like, no, just go there. The right people are there. That's the crowd you need to get into. So I was like, man, thank you so much. So I think maybe he gave me a phone number for a woman who Mary, and I don't know if that's Jack's wife or it was. I'm not sure what the relationship is, but it's Jack's partner, right?
Okay.
So I called Mary from my home phone. And I'm talking to her, and she's the nicest person ever. So, I mean, she's so accommodating and nice. Like, yes, come to the meeting. We have great speakers. It's a great group of people. We don't allow any sales. I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. And all of a sudden, the power went out. My phone hung up on her. Right? So I thought, oh, this is embarrassing, right? She probably thinks I hung up on her. But I showed up, and they had some speaker there. And I don't remember who it was, but it was like, wow, this is a different attitude, a different quality of investment. These people are doing it, right?
Yeah.
So I went a couple of times. I'm like, man, this is information. I mean, they're teaching me how to do something. This is great. So different than the other meetings I was going to where they're trying to sell me something. So he advertised these little pink cards emailed you every month to promote his meeting, right? A little postcard.
Yeah.
And I think pink is a good color, right? Because you wait for that pink card to come, right? Yeah. So the pink card would show up, and at the bottom he said upcoming events. So I asked Jack one day, I'm like, Jack, what is this stuff at the bottom? What are these upcoming events? He's like, oh, that's Peter Fortunato. You got to go see him. And I was just like, never.
Yep, new guru.
Yeah, never going to happen, Jack. I'm not doing that. He's like, no. I was like, Jack, number one, I don't do that. And number two, I'm not flying to Florida to go to a meeting. That's insane. I'm not doing that. He's like, no, you got to get Aaron, this guy's quality. He taught me what I know. He taught so many other people. And I was like, no, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to make a deal. You go, and if you don't like it, I'll give you 100% of your money back.
He didn't
even know me.
He doesn't know you. He's not selling. He's not making any money from that.
Yeah, he didn't make any money. Wow. Zero money.
He just believed in Pete that much.
Well, they'd done. I actually later on, after I'd gotten to know Pete and done a bunch of deals myself, I was on I went on to the Florida County tax, maybe the recorder's website, and I started researching because I wanted to look at some documents that Pete had recorded. Right, it's public information, and I started to see Pete and Jack's name a lot.
Okay,
so these guys are doing a lot of deals, and they're doing deals together. So I went and I went home first. I told my wife, hey man, I just got a free trip to Florida. That's my attitude, right? Yeah. I'm not going to learn anything. It's a scam. I'm going to get 100% of my money back. I'm going to get a free trip to Tampa. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
Right? My wife's like, oh, well, okay, I'm 100% supportive. My wife, that's awesome about her. 100% supportive. Hey, if you want to do it, you think it's a good thing, go for it. So I flew to Florida. I get to the most rundown, horrible hotel I've ever stayed in my life, right? And there's like feral cats outside fighting, at night. I'm just like, what did I get? The place was filthy. I was just like, what the, right? So, impression now, right?
Yeah.
Why would somebody have me come to this hotel? I go into the meeting, and Pete walks in, and he's got this tie on that's from like the 60s, like big gaudy. He still wears it today, the same tie.
Wow.
Right? The room's okay, but it's run down. And I'm just like, there's no way this guy's trying to rip me off.
This is the exact opposite of every other
He's
guru
not
I've
trying
ever
to
seen.
impress me, in any way, shape, or form. And it was his one step beyond class, which is the most advanced class he taught. And a lot of people are like, that's the class that'll blow you out of the water. You don't want to go. It's way too advanced. The topic, the strategies, they're just insane. But for me, I just connected. I didn't get a lot of stuff he talked about because you got your own language in real estate. Yeah. So a lot of it I didn't really understand, but I connected. Like, this is what and the people there, talking to them on the breaks, and they're just like telling me, oh, well, I'm doing deals here and I'm doing this, and it's like, wow, you're doing it, you're making it happen.
So it sounds to me too like you had this mindset shift because you were in the Shark Tank, right? And all these people were like trying to sell you stuff, but you didn't know anybody actually making money.
I'd never met anybody at all those meetings who was actually. Now, Steve Dexter owns a lot of rental properties. He was doing it, but essentially his business model, he ran a mortgage brokerage company, and he was buying from a wholesaler who later I ended up buying houses from. But he was buying from that wholesaler, putting great loans on those houses and keeping them as rentals. I don't think he was doing rehabs and flips per se.
It sounds like there was just this another paradigm shift because you're like, you learned about real estate, but then you saw these people that were actually doing real estate.
It was getting in the right circle, getting surrounded by the right people. Yeah. And that's key. It's very hard to find. They weren't trying to sell you something, but they were just people actually doing deals. Yeah. Right? And, you go to the RIAs and you think that's the place to go, but more often than not, it's not the place to go to meet people. Unfortunately, to say that, but it's really not the place to go to meet.
Well, you're in there, and I liken it to this. You've got a bunch of people that are trying to learn the stuff, and you got one or two people that are the experts trying to share it. And that's not bad, but if you get to surround yourself, and this is just true in life, if you surround yourself with people who are where you want to be, you're going to get successful.
Surround yourself with the people you want to become.
And you found all these people, and you were probably just like, from that moment on, you're going to tell us, but from that moment on, I bet you surrounded yourself with all of those successful people. Like, you probably just grabbed a bunch of them.
From that meeting, you learn from people. So like I spent a couple days with you and you showed me a couple of books. Yeah. Like, man, I don't have that book. Add that to my Amazon wish list, right? So I'm getting exposed to new ideas, new thoughts, right? So a couple of these authors who do certain things, like, man, I never. So by talking to people and asking, well, who do you go to for education? Who do you recommend? And getting those names and then going to those events and making my own decisions, but meeting people at those events, and you get into this network and you finally you fall into a kind of a pattern of people that you rely on for certain educational aspects, right? And that's eventually where I ended up, where I was going to certain seminars consistently every year. The same teachers over and over and over again. And I have no problem sharing those names because I think they're the most reputable people in the real estate business. So like John Schaub, he teaches a class, Building Wealth One House at a Time. If you know nothing about real estate, that is absolutely the first class you should go to.
Okay, who else?
Right? Well, it was much later that, and Gary Johnson's only been around recently, but he teaches a class. I think it's a financial
money, not math.
Well, financial freedom or financial. So that class is an excellent class if you really don't get money and you only view money as something to exchange for stuff and services, right? Because that's not what money is.
And look, if you'd had that information back when you were in the Navy, you were working hard, had all this extra money, but you didn't know what to do with it. You go there and it's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, now I start to see that my money's not just, and I knew my money wasn't just for exchanging for goods and services. That's the consumerist mentality. And I'm not a consumer. I buy what I need. I don't buy what I want. So if I had been exposed to that kind of thought process, I could have put my money to work for me much earlier.
And not only that, you're going to talk about Jimmy Napier here in a second, but the time value of money that those guys talk about, because you really, that $60,000 you had, you lost all that opportunity. Had you known this stuff earlier, had you been, had Gary Johnson been around.
Mistake number one, I entrusted other people to invest my money for me.
If you'd have known about Jimmy Napier before that, right, the invest in debt principles, you know time value of money, had a financial calculator and said, hey, this $60,000, you would have,
future potential income from that money too. Every time you spend $1, you not only spend that dollar, but you destroy all the future potential income that dollar can earn, which is a huge thought. It's a mentality shift when you realize, man, if I go on this vacation and it costs me $1,000, that's house money that I'm spending. So there's
such a mentality
something
shift.
that I think we talked about that before is, and I don't remember who told it to me or first exposed me to the idea, but there's a period of sacrifice and everybody pays. Yeah. So you decide, do you pay when you're young? Because if you don't do the sacrifice when you're young, you will do it when you're old.
Yep.
And I it's kind of sad in the sense that I'm always focused on this retirement phase, right? Like I want to do this now so when I'm older, I don't have to worry about these things. But it's also good because I do the things that, it forces me to do the things that I do now. And I absolutely enjoy my life, and I'm always living in the moment and do lots of fun stuff. But in the back of my mind, the thought process always is, I need to do that because later on it will be extremely beneficial to me.
You had that mindset from a young age too. It seems like you always were working something. You just didn't know what it was. But later when you found those paradigm shifting books and you found time, value, money, financial calculator, we talked about this before. Those dollars are soldiers or employees that go out there and work for
you,
right?
They're your employees.
Yeah, you said, I don't, my best employees are the dead presidents,
yeah,
right?
I only hire dead presidents.
Only hire dead presidents. But that's, if you have that mentality from a younger age, that time value of money is huge. If you run a financial calculator, you know how to work that. It's like the earlier
I'd
you
never
start,
been exposed.
the better.
I think I didn't discover financial calculator probably when I was like 35.
I know, it's embarrassing, right? I just discovered it a few years ago.
I had the $100 scientific calculator, which does nothing for me.
Which does nothing for you.
That I had to have.
Something,
it was a requirement in school to buy this, and it does absolutely nothing for me.
Right.
But the financial calculator, which is like $30, has made me untold amounts of money.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And I'd never been exposed to that. Never. Why has no educational institution that I've ever been to ever showed me or even told me, well, hey, you should go play with this financial calculator. It's out there. It's available. It's this cool tool that you won't necessarily use it, but a lot of people who have an influence over your life, like the people who lend you money to go buy your house and the people who lend you money to buy a car, whatever, they know how to use that calculator,
or the people
and they're going to use it to their advantage.
Yeah, and the people that know how to use it and the people that don't. You're negotiating against somebody that knows how to use the financial calculator, which we'll get into later, your real estate career. Look out, because be careful what you're negotiating.
Yeah, they're going to get a great return.
They're going to get a great return because they know how to, if you don't know how to plug that in, if you don't know what those, P, PV, FV, PMT, if you don't know what that is, and you're going to be the ones who pay for that.
You're going to feel the pain of the payment.
Yes, you will.
So just there's a lot of interesting things out there. So we were talking about kind of sphere of influence. John Schaub, phenomenal. He's got some great books on Amazon. Phenomenal guy, upstanding guy, extremely inexpensive, no coaching programs, and he just sells you education.
Yeah.
Use it or don't. It's up to you.
And I know from that you found some other people too. I know Mike Cantu.
So that whole circle was basically that I got into was John Schaub, Jack Miller, Pete Fortunato. And Jack's no longer with us, but Pete's still around and still teaches. And Pete has kind of partnered up with, on a lot of events lately, Dykes Butterford. And I really like his stuff. I just actually went to one of his trust classes, which was phenomenal. I had some extremely intricate questions, and I was thinking, well, I'm gonna have to ask these questions. He covered them in the program. Wow. I was just like, wow. And they're like, well, you answered exactly what I was looking for. And it was basically buying subject to buying. When you're buying a house with existing debt on there, how do you deal with certain aspects with the trust? And he answered those questions for me in the content, which was amazing. He does. I don't think anybody researches information before they present it like Dykes Butterford. His if you need to know about corporations, trusts, LLCs, IRA investing, he's the go-to guy. Wow. And Pete as well. Pete does a lot of. Pete doesn't teach you about trust investing. That's part of his what's it called, repertoire? That's part of his repertoire. In his educational stuff. But for specifically trust education, Dykes is the guy to go to. But Pete and Dykes partnered up, and they do IRA investing class. I think it's in Georgia every year. I haven't been to it yet, but that's on my hit list. That's one I need to go to. But there's just that whole group of guys, and then
the people. You had the people in your group because those were like kind of mentors that were teaching you stuff. But the mentors, I know Mike Cantu, and there's a bunch of other people.
The boots on the ground guys.
Yeah, the boots on the ground.
So that's
the importance of that.
So I got Jimmy Napier's book, Invest in Debt, which is a phenomenal book. It's like 10 or 12 bucks, right? So buy that book and get the financial calculator, and within hours, probably, you can read that book. I think it's like 100 pages.
Yeah.
And I taught myself how to use a financial calculator.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so, now I got the calculator. I understand it. I'm not efficient with it, but I understand it. I get it. I get the concept. I got the book, and the book's helped me out. So at the time, Jimmy had like this email group. So I'm going on there and I'm reading. Online forums, great place to learn about real estate. So I'm going online and I'm reading these forums. This email forum, it was like a Yahoo email group. It's no longer around. He shut it off. But at the time, so I'm reading that, and I'm doing my best to answer questions, right? So somebody posts a financial question, like, man, I'm a financial calculator genius. I'm going to figure that out. So I'd post like, well, I think it's this, right? And you can check your work, and it's like, so I think it's that, right? So I'm kind of just messing around, not really 100% sure, but it's like the kid in class. You raise your hand, and oh, the answer is 12. It's like, well, it's 9. Well, I tried. Right? It's a little embarrassing, but I tried, right? So I'm throwing out answers, and From driving forklifts, they moved me in-house, so I'm working in this construction company, and I'm doing sales and contract negotiation, and this is all in a period of about probably 4 or 5 years, right?
Okay.
So I'm educating, and I bought my condo, my townhouse, and then I bought just right out of the MLS a fixer-upper house, early 2000s. I was buying like one a year for a couple of years, not doing anything creative or just hey, I got some money. And John Schaub, hey, buy one a year for 10 years, put good financing behind them, rent them out, and you're done. You don't need any more than that. And that's really...
That's sound advice
that's really sound advice, right? For 99% of the people out there, if you got a job and you like your job and you got good income, you don't need to give that up.
Right.
Keep doing what you do and love it, but don't pass up the opportunity to just buy that one rental house a year. Great tax benefits, residual income, and the first 10 years, it's probably not going to do very well on the income. Maybe you break even or lose a little money, right? But at least the rent should cover all the debt service, right? So, and I find that most stuff you buy at the MLS, the average citizen, that's about what's going to happen. You're not going to get some windfall, cash flow. But you buy these 10 houses, one a year, and after 10 years, you got 10 good quality rental houses. Maybe on the 11th year, you buy one and you sell off your dog, and you kind of upgrade your portfolio. And I kind of was just following that program. I had a great job. I was making good money now. And I didn't have a lot of time to be out there marketing and looking for deals and networking for deals. But I was still going to all these RIA meetings, and I'm going and learning. And so I'm kind of on a lot of kids go to school for 4 years college, and you find those kids that go for 6 years to get a 4-year degree. I'm kind of on that program, right?
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So socializing and meeting, trying to figure out what it is I really want to do. But I really enjoyed my job. I had a day job that had become very lucrative, and I was excelling at it, and it was very challenging and rewarding. So I was really enjoying that. And again, if that had continued, I would have just stayed that path because I really enjoyed what I was doing, but there were management issues, and that's why I eventually left. But by being on that board and being involved in that, I had learned about a Friday morning breakfast that was near my office. So on Friday mornings, I was driving over. It was a couple miles away. I'd just drive over and go eat breakfast with these really old school landlords. And that was really cool. And I'm hanging out with these people. And I didn't go expecting to buy houses from them or to take over their portfolio. I just wanted to go surround myself with the people that I wanted to become. I wanted to become an old school landlord who'd go have breakfast every Friday with his friends, right?
Right. So
I'm going out, and there was one guy there, Mick Blackwell, who was a big influence on me in my early investing years, and he kept mentioning this private Tuesday mastermind group, right? And I was like, man, if I could only get into that, right? And every once in a while, he just throw, in my private Tuesday mastermind group, we sold 3 houses, changed hands. I was like, man, I want to go to that thing, right? So one day he says to me, hey, Aaron, are you the Aaron that's posting on Jimmy Napier's list on his group? And I was like, it was called Jimmy's List, I think was the name of it. And I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, that financial calculator question.
This is where you're answering 12, the answer is 9, but you're trying.
No, I think I was doing right. Okay. I don't think I was getting wrong. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to, do your best. You at least throw an answer out, and maybe you find out it's wrong. At least you find out why,
Yeah.
So no, I think I was answering him correct. And I says, I answered that question. That was me. He's like, hey, you ought to come out to our Tuesday lunch sometime. I was like, woohoo! I paid my dues. I'm in.
Yeah.
So I went out there. And I had real estate in California was going up through the roof, and I had now maybe 2 or 3 rental houses, but nothing, I didn't do anything. I just straight out of the MLS bought it, found an agent, said, hey, can you go find me anything that needs work? And, I'm in construction. I can find people to do work for me. The first one I bought is actually the one I live in today. The first rental house I bought, it was just people going to foreclosure. It was like a pre-foreclosure. It was listed in the MLS, and I bought it, and I think I paid $210. It was probably a $250 house, so it was okay. That's not bad. Yeah, right. But right out of the MLS, needed a ton of work, and every weekend I drove out and worked on this house. I was out there, and my brother sent me the Home Depot, the orange book from Home Depot. Yeah. And from that book, I learned how to do everything.
Yeah.
And I would just hire a guy, hey, can you, I was on construction sites, so I'd see a guy who, hey, not the guy with the master license plumber, but the guy who's carrying the toolbox, right? Hey, can you help me this weekend if I pay you $100? Can you come out and help me plumb this house out? Yeah, I'd love it. $100 a day, cash. They're all over that. So I'd have the guy meet me out there, and he'd show me, and we replumbed the whole house with copper. It was galvanized. Took it all out, put copper in. Right, me and him did that in like a weekend, and then we put all new windows in, and we put a new bathroom in. We just did all this stuff, not just me and him, but me and a couple. I'd find different tradesmen, right?
Awesome way to learn too. You were side by side.
Yeah, and don't think you can't go to any major construction site and find guys to do that. Day laborers, they would love to come do that, and they're skilled enough to do that, but they don't have the long-term experience, to make that big income or to do those.
They're the business side.
Yeah, they're just laborers. They're guys who trade their dollars for hours. So I'm kind of teaching myself how to rehab houses, right, on the weekends, and I'm doing it. If you ask my wife, it was every weekend I was going out, paying my dues, right? So I work all week. Weekends, I'm at my house rehabbing all day long, morning to night, driving home in the dark, filthy dirty, right? Driving back and look at my book, okay, and make a list. I got to get these parts. Tomorrow I'm going to go back and try to fix this stuff. My family came out to visit, and they wanted to go see the house. I had them staying down in Newport Beach. I told you that story. Yeah. So we drove all the way out there to go look at this house, and while we're out there, I was like, well, it's a good opportunity for me to put some stuff on the wall, some spackle, Yeah. And my dad's like, oh, you're doing that all wrong. Let me show you. This is how you do it properly. I was like, sweet, free lesson. Yeah. So I was like, hey, while we're here, do you guys mind if I do a little work? So I'm showing him this is my first big investment house. And my dad was really, really happy and proud. He's like, man, it's great that you're doing this stuff. So I'm slowly progressing, and I kind of forgot where we're going.
You're in the Tuesday meetings though, so you went there.
So he invites me to this Tuesday meeting, and now real estate's at least doubled in value. I've got a HELOC on my house like every other schmuck out there. So I go to this Tuesday meeting, and there's this guy that I'd heard of at all these clubs. Big famous wholesaler. Okay. Kind of like you, right? Yeah. Guy in the market, just killing it, reputable. Well, what I was looking for was reputation. Right? Quality deals. He's not selling crap like the majority of people who come, well, I want to be a wholesaler because I don't have any money and any experience, any knowledge, so that's the easiest entry point. Yeah. Now, wholesaling is your top tier, right? The rehab fix and flip guy, that's the thing anybody can do because essentially you're just a project manager, right? You can borrow money from a hard money lender. You can come to you and get a deal. I can hire a real estate agent to sell it for me. I can get a crew to rehab it. What do I really need to learn how to do? Manage. That's it. I got to manage, all the people, all the parts, make the payments, all this, and just make sure all the pieces come together. So at the end of the day, I get a check, right? I think rehab and flip is the easiest job out there. You can go look at a dozen other rehab and flip properties and see exactly what you need to do. Hey, investor tan walls. Right? Yep. White baseboard, Berber carpet, tile. It's so simple, right? Neutral, go to Home Depot, buy your cabinets, get your granite. It's so simple to rehab and flip a house. The instructions are out there. You just got to say, well, I'm going to go do that. Make it look exactly like that. Recessed lights. I mean, it's so simple to do all that stuff.
So you're at the Tuesday meeting, and you heard about this wholesaler.
Yeah. So I heard about this guy, and I'd never met him, but I'd heard about him. And he shows up, and he's like, hey, I got this house. Anybody wants? I was like, I'll take it. I had no idea what I was buying. Right? No clue where it was, what I was getting into, what it was worth. I didn't know how to comp houses. I didn't know any of that stuff. But I knew his reputation was solid.
On reputation alone, you said, I'll take it.
100% all in.
And then he's like, do you want the address? Do you want information? You're like, yeah, that would help, but I just want it.
Let's go one more scary step. It was like $220,000 I paid for this house. And it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in a really bad part of San Bernardino, right?
You had no idea.
No idea what I was getting. I didn't know how to rehab. I mean, I knew how to rehab a house, but only my own. Like I knew how to do work, but I didn't know how to rehab a finished product for sale. I'd never done that. I fixed my house up for rental. That's a big difference. Like in my house, I didn't replace the kitchen. I still have the original kitchen in the house that I live in. So you talk to a lot of investors, and these guys are going out and they're making bank and they're upgrading their lifestyle. I was never that guy. I never upgraded my lifestyle. I've always lived here, and when the market does like this, my life don't change. So when it goes way up, banking more money, doing better, my life stays the same. So you come to my house, I still got the original bathroom. I did have to gut one bathroom and rebuilt it from scratch. I got a discount on travertine from a project, a woman that I met in the business. She had a lot of leftover travertine. My bathroom is like a Vegas. I mean, it's floor, all the walls are travertine, the whole thing, right? So that cheap. One master bath is like, you walk in my house, like my buddy came in, he's like, your house is so old, right? Still flat panel doors, I mean, but a house just needs to keep you dry and warm.
For rental, but this flips. You buy this.
So I bought it. So I buy this house to rehab and flip. I'm all in, $220,000. Wrote it out of my HELOC on my personal residence.
Wow.
Don't do this. Extremely risky. I essentially risked everything I had. Right. So I went all in. And then at the same meeting, I'm like, does anybody have, like a couple weeks later, we closed escrow, and I said, does anybody have a rehabber I can use? And this one guy, he was doing about 25 houses a year. He's like, yeah, I'm kind of slowing down a little bit. You can use my guy. So I said, great. He gave me his phone number. I called the guy up and said, hey, can you meet me at the house? And I didn't really know what needed to be done to sell a house. Like what, I didn't understand termite inspections and all these things we have in California, mold and all that. I didn't get any of that. So I just said, well, what do you think needs to be done? He's like, you need to do this, we'll paint, we'll do that, $5,000. I was like, well, that's cheap, right? This is cheap. Yeah. But again, it's a stucco house. It's like 700 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
Did you pay $220,000 for?
That I paid $220,000 for.
Without even
in
seeing
like
it, 2005
or something, when the market was at the peak, right?
Wow.
So so I closed on it. I got the guy to do the work, listed it, and I was telling you again during this, to kind of step back a little bit, I was trying to learn real estate, so I was taking the real estate courses at the local community college.
That's hilarious.
So I'm going and I'm taking these classes at night, right?
Yeah.
I'm taking appraisal and escrow and legal aspects, and I think these are great classes to take.
Yeah.
Phenomenal classes to take. Like legal, I think out of all the years I have spent in college, legal aspects of real estate was one of the best classes I ever took. It was amazing. The instructor was really good, and he was a retired judge, and he was showing us all these cases. It was so fun. So I take all these classes. Agent. Yeah, and I became an agent. I passed the test, and that was back in like 2003. I was still trying to figure out. Well, I had this job driving forklifts, but I don't know what to do with my life. So I was like, well, I'll become a real estate agent. I can make money doing that. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's easy. Everybody in California is a real estate agent. Yeah. I didn't even realize how competitive that business was. Yeah. So I just went down and took the test and passed that. And so I'm a licensed agent, had never sold a house, never actually hung it with a brokerage or anything. I just got the license. And my super creative thinking was, well, I'm buying stuff out of the MLS. If I'm the agent, then I can make the offer myself and save commission.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it's just stupid, right?
So now you've got this house that's fixed up with your bought $220,000.
And I'm a broker, right? So and I'm a broker.
You're a broker.
I'm a broker
which is even more
scary. Who knows nothing about real estate brokering, right?
Wow.
So it took me about 5 tries to finally get all the information correct in the MLS. Like in our MLS, when you enter it in, you hit submit. It gives you little red circles with white X's in them.
Yeah,
like,
what do I got to fix now?
Hey, you screwed up on the description. You screwed up on the legal. You screwed up. So I'm going back. Okay, this is wrong. Fix that. Submit. All right, you still screwed up on these two. All right. So I finally got it listed, and I put a sign in the front lawn, and I made some flyers on Word, and I had a local sign company make, and made a real estate, fake real estate brokerage, Home Sales R Us or something, and my home phone number on there, and I had and somebody comes in with an offer, right? And I was like, sweet. Yeah. So I got like 3 offers on it, and I didn't know which one to choose. I'm like, man, these are all good. I don't know which, how do you weigh them? I don't know. So
you're a licensed broker.
I'm a licensed broker who knows nothing about house, because they don't teach you that. Yeah. They teach you absurd, ridiculous stuff that has really nothing to do with being. Yeah. Let's face the facts. You're a real estate broker. You need to know negotiation. You need to know appraisal, because you have to appraise the house to figure out what you're going to sell it for. You really need to know marketing. Yeah. They don't ever teach anybody marketing, right? And you need to know contracts, and they don't teach you any of that. There's no part of the real estate brokerage test that has not one question, I think there's 100, that has anything to do with contracts. Wow. Right? So
you got this thing, you got 3 contracts in front of you, you don't know what
I don't know which one to pick. 3 offers. I don't know which one to pick. I certainly don't know what to do with it when I do pick it. Like, what do I? So I went down the street. There was a woman in every neighborhood in California, there's a real estate agent. Yeah. So I went over and I knocked on her door. I said, Hasina, can you help me out with this? And she's like, what's going on? I said, well, I got this house. I own it, and I'm selling it. It's in the MLS, but I don't know what to do, and I got an offer. She's like, yeah, you just pay me $1,500, I'll do everything for you. So I put the offers in front of her. I'm like, which one would you go with? She's like, well, this one submitted, their credit score and their loan app, and that's good. This one doesn't have an approval, not a loan app, but an approval. Yeah. This one doesn't, so I wouldn't go with that because they don't have an approval. You want that, and so we picked an offer. And we went with them, and she handled all the paperwork, gave it all to me to sign all the disclosures and everything, all the the pile of stuff you need to sell real estate, just absurd. And I made copies of it all, right, from my file. So now I have basically a swipe file or a research file, right? Yeah. So we sold the house and made $26,000 profit.
So you went in there strictly on the wholesaler, strictly on his recommendation. He said, "I'll take it."
But
you didn't know who
reputation, 100% honest. I would not do that with somebody you're going to meet at the local RIA who needs to stand in front of a room of 300 people and say, "I got this smoking deal." Right? That's not a deal. If it is a deal, it never would have made it into that room.
That's true.
Right?
But you bought it.
I bought
sight
it.
unseen.
Sight unseen.
You had no idea how to fix it.
And it had a tenant
to fix it.
And it had a tenant in it that I had to get out.
Wow.
Yeah. So no clue how to do any of
it.
it.
You made $26,000.
Made $26,000 profit on the deal.
Wow, that's incredible.
But again, rehab and flipping, in my opinion, and from my experience, it's the easiest thing to do in this business because all you have to be is a project manager.
Okay.
I had to supervise. I had to write checks, right? So I borrowed it from a HELOC, but you could certainly use a hard money lender, right? You just have to make sure there's enough spread in there to cover that debt service. And you have enough reserves to cover that debt service. With the HELOC, the payments are extremely small. They're interest only, and they're only charging you whatever the going rate is at the time. It's like 5%. So very affordable.
Very affordable.
Hard money, 12%, a little more expensive.
You had a HELOC, which helped you out a lot on that. But so now I want to.
But there's a lot of people with family money, and there's HELOCs out there again today. That's a product that's back in the market. So you could find somebody who has a HELOC, and again, I wouldn't do this on your primary residence or your mom and dad's residence. That's extremely risky. You don't want your mom and dad to be homeless, and you certainly don't want them moving in with you.
Yeah,
I think homeless is a choice before moving in with you, right? So you don't want to pay for the apartment they have to go live in when you lose their house foreclosure.
Yeah.
But you can find people to partner with, and all right, so maybe I only made 13 grand on that house. If I brought a money guy in who partnered with me, would that have been bad?
Yeah, it's still great.
No, I made 13 grand for just managing people. And this was the whole process was 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh. So how did you make that shift from you bought your first flip, did that, but I know you're a wholesaler now, and that's how we met actually, because we met 2 years ago, or a few years ago. You were teaching at a Bigger Pockets conference, wholesaling in front of hundreds of people, and you had a totally different style and flair to you than most traditional wholesalers. So let's talk about that a little bit now. How did you get into wholesaling? And then talk a little bit about your style of wholesaling and just, nobody does it like you do. So you're the most unique wholesaler I've ever met.
Again, people are like, I want to be a wholesaler because they think it's the easiest way to a check. And I disagree. I disagree 100%. If you get lucky and something falls in your lap and you've somehow miraculously bought it at a discount with enough spread in there that it can be sold
blind squirrel, right? Blind squirrel theory.
Yeah, you're gonna find a nut eventually. If you do this
blind squirrel can.
But is that the best use of your time? Right. Eventually a dog gonna eat you if you're a blind squirrel, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the best use of your time. Go out and find something from a wholesaler, a reputable guy. Beg and plead, please just sell me one. I know you got your number one buyer, but I got cash. Please get me into the business.
And they'll have pity on you.
I promise I'll become your number one buyer. Just get me going.
Yeah. Okay, so go on.
So the wholesaling is all about deal flow. And you become a wholesaler when you have too many houses, right? So you have all these houses coming in, and you got your rehab business going, and all of a sudden there's more houses than you have money, or you have crew, or time to deal with. So now you have to make, now you have this decision to make, I need to get rid of some of this inventory. So I kept buying from that same wholesaler and quickly moved up to the number one buyer on his list and bought everything that he had coming through. And
you kept making money.
Yeah, I kept making money on everything. And the best deal I did with him, I made $60,000.
Wow.
The worst deal I did with him was probably that 26. So most of the houses were between 26 and 60,000 that I bought from him. So a couple I kept it as rentals.
Yeah.
I bought one that I bought and the market was kind of tanking and I should have got out, but I had that fear of losing money. And I'll tell you, when it comes to losing money at once, to be once and done versus losing money every month and have this ongoing seminar, lose the money at once and be over it.
Oh man, that right
just
there.
Just lose the money, walk away. There's more money out there. Just lose it and go. Get back to work.
Golden information.
Yeah, instead of just dealing with it and dealing with it. I had this rental house. I still own it today, but I bought it. I rehabbed it. I put tenants in there. I should have flipped it. I thought, well, I want to start building my portfolio. I had some extra money. The thing started collapsing in value, and now it's upside down. And then it was on septic system, and the septic failed, and I had to pay another $15,000 to fix that. So it's just been an ongoing seminar. Now it's good. I got a great tenant. He's been there for years. He pays like clockwork, and he's one of those. He's the perfect tenant, blue collar guy. Has tools, has a lawnmower. Maybe out here you want a guy who owns a snowblower. And those are great questions to ask. You can put a tenant in the house. I don't subsidize my tenant's lifestyle, so I don't pay any utilities, nothing. So when you move in, you're putting the big boy pants on. You're stepping up from an apartment to a house. You need to have house materials. So you need to have house wherewithal. Do you have a snowblower? If the answer is no, well, when are you going to buy one?
Are you going
to
go strong back?
You shovel straw back some rubber boots? Because if you don't, you're probably not a good fit for my house, because I'm not coming over and shoveling and mowing. I'm not coming over and shoveling. I'm California, man. I'm not coming over and shoveling your driveway. It ain't going to happen, right? So you got a lawnmower. These are great questions to ask, right? So no, you don't have a lawnmower? Oh, do you have a contact for a guy to do landscaping? Because I'm not paying for it. And it better be green, because code enforcement ain't calling me up, harassing me that the lawn's burnt. So that property's up and running, doing great now.
How did you shift from being, you bought one from that wholesaler, then you became his number one buyer, you fixed and flip and everything. How did you make that shift into then becoming a wholesaler?
So you have to figure out, we had this conversation the other day. You put 100 investors in a room, 100 successful investors in a room, and you ask, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do? You get 100 different answers. I hate to rehab houses. That's what I realized from doing all that.
It was a good paycheck.
Going through it. It's a great pay. It's the biggest paycheck you'll get in real estate. I mean, other than buying notes at super discounts.
Right.
I mean, that's just a whole other business model that you would need days of, to get into. Or doing kind of hard money lending. That's something where you're going to make a lot more money if you're doing the hard money lending with the intention of foreclosing, kind of like probate loans, things like that. So you want the big paydays? Rehab and flip houses.
But you hated it.
I don't like it. For me, no. I don't want to see investor tan walls anymore. I don't want to deal with all that nonsense. I don't like, and maybe for me the right answer was getting a project manager and doing it, but I've had so many houses vandalized, broken into, and just appliances stolen out of them. The second to last one I did, which was last year, and I still do rehabs and flips, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking for those that have a very big payday. The last two I did, both of them were somewhere between 90 and 100,000 in profit.
And that's California.
And they're just, in California, they're just, but most people are getting 10 to 12% of the net sales price or gross sales price. So if you sell a $300,000 property, you're probably looking at 30 to 40,000 in profit. That's generally what rehab flip model is.
Right. So how did you shift this? So this guy, did you mentor underneath that guy? I mean,
from dealing with him and buying a lot of his houses, you buy one and you get some document with him, or I got copies of his trust, the title holding trust that he was using, because maybe he closed on it, he didn't have a buyer, and then he eventually sold it to me, and it's in the title holding trust, or he made the offer with it going into a trust, and we used his escrow. So now I have documents of his title holding trust because he closed on the trust and needs to give it to me. And we did a lot of crazy deals. Like he bought one with a hard money loan, and I bought it subject to that house with that hard money loan in his name. But that's the kind of reputation that I had as a guy who performs and closes. I stay and I pay. I make sure the deal gets done, and I see it through to the end. So he was okay signing a $180,000 hard money loan in his name, in his corporate name, and then handing me the keys to the house and the deed, and knowing, hey, I'm going to make the payments. I'll make sure the house gets sold, and I'll pay that loan off. It won't come back to haunt you, right? So
the trust. I mean, definitely got to have that trust.
Yeah. So it's a relationship business, right?
Totally. It really is.
A lot of this stuff, none of it was. We're not putting stuff in writing, and we have all these agreements. And it's like, well, we got to get our lawyers involved. We got to have this. I didn't do any of that. Yeah. So from that experience, dealing with him and his business model and the way he does things, he's given me copies of the letters.
What's his name, by the way?
Mike Cantu.
Oh, that was Mike Cantu.
Yeah, Mike
okay.
Cantu. So, Mike would show me, this is the letter I bought that house off of. So I'd see that. And we became friends. I'm hanging out at his office because I'm buying houses from him. Yeah. And I just got to really learn his business model. I'm like, man, he still rehabs and flips. Still to this day, he's got a couple going on.
Yeah.
And he's majority stuff, I think he still wholesales. He's still in the business. So I just saw that, man, this is a good business model. If I go out and I start doing some marketing and I get some leads in and I learn how to close these, now I got the contract side down. I know how he's doing the contract and all that. I just got to figure out, I got his letter, so I understand the marketing, so I can rewrite this and kind of make it my own, put my own personality in there, my own touch. So I got a great idea of the marketing. I understand that. I understand the contract side. The only thing I need to really figure out is the closing. Right, and I'm buying and selling, so I've been doing rehabs and flips, so I'm learning appraisal. I can figure out what things are worth, how much work they need. I'm understanding estimating. I'm selling stuff retail, so I get the appraisal side of it, what the after repair value is. So all these are aspects of being a good wholesaler, because you need to know all that without actually doing any of it. You don't turn a product over to a rehabber and have no idea of what the end value of that house is. How much budget should be expected to be spent on rehabbing and flipping, how long he should hold the house. So in this market, so say we're in kind of a flat market, you don't turn a property over to a rehabber with a budget in there of 3 months holding expenses.
Right.
Right.
6 months.
Yeah. He needs a 6 months holding. Right. He needs 6 months factored in there. So when you buy, you have to buy knowing this guy may have to hold the house 6, 7, 8 months. You need to understand all that. The market cycle. You need to know. In this economy, people are only buying stuff that's super turnkey, like beautiful. They don't even need to sweep it. They can move their furniture in the day they close escrow. There's other times when you can sell something that has dog poop on the floor, right? When it's a hot REO market and buyers are out looking at crap after crap, junk after junk, they're okay with buying your cleaned out. And I sold quite a few properties in 2010, 2011, where I just paid a guy $500 to go clean the thing, get all the trash out, de-trash it, and sold it as is. And I didn't sell it retail, sold it below retail, but I get a huge profit on it.
So you sound like you learned the whole way, because from the books you were reading and the people you were around, from the RIAs to the Tuesday meeting to the
but more than anything, like, you can't learn how to fight a war by reading a book.
Right.
It's from being in the trenches,
absolutely.
boots on the ground, being in the foxhole,
Yeah.
knowing when you hear the whistle, you need to duck. So from being on the ground doing deals, that's where you learn the business.
Yeah, interesting.
I think I was supposed to check out 20 minutes ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're knocking on the door.
Oh. Well,
Somebody call them and see if I can get a late checkout. You can edit this all out,
Yeah, we could edit
Absolutely,
that.
Yeah, let me just call them real quick.
No one's getting your
Anyway,
wholesaling
just
side. What's that?
I filled up a card.
I know I was supposed to check out. Can I stay a little bit longer? We're doing an interview. Can I check out at 1 o'clock? Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I'll call it from this.
Thank you so much.
You getting this? You have a card? You getting the audio of it, or?
Yeah, we're all good. This camera's going still.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, we're going.
And so now, the wholesale side though, you are one of the most unique wholesalers I've ever met. So you took Mike Cantu's stuff, and I think you probably do it a little different than him. So talk a little bit about your unique wholesaling style, how you deal with it.
I had partnered, and I've done a lot of partnerships in this business since I've been in a lot of different partnerships. All of them were exceptionally valuable to me. Different relationships with different investors along the way, and I brought something to the table, they brought something to the table, but all of them were extremely profitable. So the first guy I partnered with, a guy that I think I probably met at that Tuesday lunch, he had a lot of online marketing, and we did some amazing deals with online marketing. And what was great about it at the time, we were probably getting 150 leads a month. I think on average it was about 150 leads a month.
A lot.
So it was a lot of filtering, a lot of talking to sellers, and I really cut my teeth on talking to sellers. And we bought and rehabbed and flipped. Yeah. And that was our main business model. When that dissolved, I partnered. I went solo for a little while, and then I partnered with another guy who was financially challenged. He had some serious issues going on because of the business model that he tried to run, which was buy subject to, and then sell with lease options. Which I think lease options, in California, if that's your business model, you don't have a business model.
Yeah, that can be a mess.
I don't know anybody who's been successful doing that, and I know there's people out there saying they do it, and I just don't believe it. Yeah. Because I know so many people that I've run a RIA, and I've gone to all the other RIAs, and I've spoken at them. I don't know anybody, not one person that's successful, that's had a successful lease option business model in California. So maybe there's somebody out there who's proven me wrong, but I would say, show me your books, prove it.
Yeah,
right?
prove it. Yeah.
So that was the business model that he got, but he was studying under people that were in other states where that business model is extremely successful. That model works in this kind of a market. You want to go to Texas? Well, I think in Texas they have some laws now that you can't do it. But if you want to go to like Colorado or something, where the market is kind of sideways and it doesn't have this velocity behind it, that lease option stuff works. You buy it today, the house is worth 120. You do a lease option 3 years from now, the house is worth 125. Yeah. You're not going to lose a whole lot of money. But in California, when you buy a $300,000 house, you do a lease option on it, or you buy it subject to, and then 3 years later, that $300,000 house is worth 225. What do? Give it back to the people who sold it to you, right?
That's an interesting point too, because different things work in different parts of the market, but when you go in there and you find people like you found Mike Cantu and other people that were like mentors to you that were like in your market doing it, because there's no substitute. These national gurus, all this stuff works, but it doesn't necessarily work in your backyard.
Yeah, it's very
specific
general information.
When you were going to Mike and he was selling you stuff and you saw his wholesale business from the inside, that it was working, it was definitely working, he became one of your reference group, you know. And I think, you know, you probably say that's probably one of the big things that turned you on to like, wow, I can be
had
wholesale.
a local successful person. And that's more powerful than any guy who's telling you at the RIA or late night TV that he does this in all states and all. That's nonsense. Nothing works in all states. Nothing works in all states.
Yeah, real estate is local at the end of the day.
Real estate is local, and the most effective strategies are also local.
Interesting. So you had this partnership with this guy. Talk about, because I know how you wholesale. I mean, when you were talking the Bigger Pockets conference, you were up there with Ryan Weber, who became a good friend of mine after that. And then I met you there, and we started talking. And you just had this totally unique style, because Ryan's up there saying stuff like, you know, here's the contract I use. And then he's like, what contract do you use? And you're like, I don't use a contract. Right? And then he's just like, oh. Well, he was kind of taken aback. But then he was like, well, you know, when I go see the sellers and do this and that, and you're like, I don't see the sellers. So talk a little bit about that, because you're the most unique wholesaler I've ever met.
I decided, I was listening to a teleconference, and there's a guy on there who called in and said, well, I've got a different issue than other people on this call. My issue is I have too many leads. And I was just like, I need to find out who this guy is.
Right.
And then I found out he's in the next town over from me.
Wow.
And I was like, so I went to Mike. I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this guy who has a problem, too many leads? I'm a closer. I need to be with this guy. So he's like, oh, that's so-and-so. He's like, I've looked at a bunch of his deals, and it wasn't him. It was just the timing, the market timing. The numbers were pretty tight and all this stuff. The sellers' expectations were still high, but prices were now low. So they were still trying to get maximum dollar on a declining value product. So he's like, well, I looked at a lot of his deals and the numbers are pretty tight. And I was like, well, that's an opinion, and I respect that, but it's really just a factor of your ability to buy lower. Right. And not saying that Mike can't buy lower, he certainly can.
But you took that and you said, okay, I take that, but he's got the leads, I could talk him into it, right?
Well, I went to Mike's property management seminar, and the guy came over and introduced himself to me. He's like, hey, I'm Ryan, and Mike said that you wanted to meet me, and I was like, yeah. He's like, well, let's go to lunch. So we went to lunch, got to know each other a little bit, and then he gave me a stack of leads and said, well, see what you can do with these. So I took them home, and I'm the kind of guy, burn through them, you know, call it, make an offer. If they don't, it's done. You know, move on. Good, next, right? I don't strangle the lead trying to get something out of it, right? Because I understand, coming from an internet marketing background, the problem isn't that this guy won't sell to me the price I want. It's deal flow again. I had 150 leads a month coming in. You don't spend time on a non-motivated seller or a seller with no equity when you got 149 other leads you got to get through. You call, if there's motivation and equity, you make an offer and move on. If they accept the offer, great. If they don't, move on, right? You keep them on the follow-up list, but on to the next one, right? You look for the people who have motivation and equity and will say yes to your offer, right? So you know, it's about speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
So he gives me a stack of leads and I burn through them like, those are crap, give me more. So he says, well, I got more, so he gives me another stack, and I found one, and we bought a house that we still own today, the first deal we did, and I got this guy on like 0 interest, seller financing, subject to, no payments for 5 years. I mean, just absurd deal I put together. And we brought in, we put him in third position. We brought in a second private lender who gave us 30 grand. And I think it cost us about 20 grand to close the deal, bring the loan current, rehab the house. So we each got paid $5,000 to buy the house. And it's borrowed money, so we didn't have to pay taxes on that because it's the $30,000. So, you know, we got paid to buy a house that cash flowed at close escrow about $550 a month.
Wow.
So he's like, hey, can you look at some more leads I got? I was like, yeah, bring them over. Yeah. So eventually I just started going to his house, and we worked for a couple of years, and we built a 7-figure business. We did a very profitable business.
And you were the closer. At what point did you know you were the closer? How did you know that?
Well, I come from in construction. They brought me in, and that's what I started doing.
So you knew you were skilled at that.
That's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy talking to people and building rapport and finding a mutual agreeable solution to problems. Yeah. So I like to close people. So what we did at this point is now we're starting a new business, right? So he's got this marketing thing down, right? He's good at it, and I'm good at closing. The next is, well, what's the exit strategy? So we can get leads, we can close them, but we can't keep everything. He didn't have a lot of money. At the time, I didn't have a lot of money. I'd rehabbed and flipped a few houses, but you're talking 2006, 2007, and I met him in 2009. So 7, 8. California real estate was doing this. It was, I mean, it was literally in a nosedive with a stalled engine.
Yeah.
You know, we had no idea when it was going to stop. And in 2009, in retrospect, everybody's like, man, I wish I bought so much more. But in 2009, you're making offers saying, well, I think it's worth 60 today, but by next month, it might be worth 50. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So you were terrified, and nobody would lend you money. They're like, dude, I'm not putting my money in real estate. That's a loser's gambit.
Yeah.
Right? So we interviewed a couple of different extremely successful investors. So we had one guy come to our office, and we spent the day there, and we asked him, this is what we're doing, what do you think? And we're showing him everything. You're like, hey, and maybe you pay a guy. This guy was a friend of ours, so he came, didn't charge us anything, but he came into our office, and we showed him, this is our business model, this is how we're handling leads, and this is what we're doing. What do you think? What is your input? And he gave us some feedback. He said, well, I would do this and this and this. So then we went to another guy. So, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, you know, funny thing is, I don't ever go look at any house I buy. And he's bought houses. This one guy has bought houses in, I think at the time, all but 2 counties in California.
Wow.
So he's a Southern California guy. He's buying in Northern California, you know, Middle California, South California. I mean, all over California, and he never looks at anything. Wow. So I was like, well, I like that.
Yeah, that sounds better driving around.
Me and my partner at the time, we went and looked at a couple of houses, and we went out there. You know, maybe the fact was we were just not screening them correctly. We're looking at the wrong houses. But we would go and we'd look at this house, and hours later we'd leave with no contract. We're like, what a waste of time. It's so frustrating, right? I could have stayed in the office and called all those other leads I had and maybe closed something, but instead I went to this old lady stinky cat pee house, and I had to sit there and smell that and drink out of her filthy glass and pretend I was having a good time, and there was just no opportunity to get a deal, right? I was like, so I think part of it was we weren't screening the leads properly for the ones that we should have been going on appointments with,
right.
And we were just kind of going to everybody,
right?
So we're going out to see everybody's house.
And you both go together.
Yeah, we're going together, and you know,
you're the closer. You're talking to him.
He's not talking. He doesn't want to deal with the people, and I'm out there talking, so it's a little bit awkward, you know.
Yeah.
Or we're talking over each other if he does get involved, and so it's just like, this doesn't work. I don't want to go look at houses anymore. What a waste of time. I'm like, he doesn't go look at them. Why do I gotta go look at them?
Yeah.
So then we talked to another guy, and he says, well, I go look at everything, but I never meet sellers. Right? It's just like, well, you don't meet sellers, and you don't go look at houses. Well, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, yeah, I'm not going to go look at any houses, and I'm not going to go meet any sellers.
So the typical example at that point was, you get a lead that comes in, you're on the phone with them, you're just talking to them.
Talking on the phone.
Doing your thing.
And they say, okay, we're going to mail you out an offer. So we mail an offer, and then it doesn't come back signed, or, you know, we're waiting, and then they get somebody else involved. And I was like, well, this is a waste of time. You know, this is it's a huge speed bump. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going to look at houses. We're not going to go meet sellers, and we're not going to give anybody an offer in writing. They're going to get verbal over the phone. If they say yes, we're going to immediately have escrow send them escrow instructions. Because an offer is nothing but telling the escrow, here's how you should type up escrow instructions. The escrow instructions are the enforceable information, right? That's what actually is going to go to title and close,
right.
and that determines how the money gets moved around. I mean, the offer is just the instructions for escrow to do that, right? So I was like, the offer's a waste of time, the written offer. So we eliminated all of it, and I sat in the office, and I took calls, made offers, bought houses, had escrow send the documents directly to them, and I would actually have escrow send the documents to the sellers with my buyer's name on the deed. So I don't even show up on contracts anywhere. There's no way to put me involved in any of those deals.
Wow.
So say we had a house, it's $190,000 house, we bought it for $100,000. We would call up one of our buyers. We only dealt with like 2 or 3. You don't need this 500 people long buyers list, and you know, that's just nonsense. If you have a list that long, the problem is your deals suck.
Yeah.
Right? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to buy everything under the sun and trying to plug in, you know, square pegs to round holes all over town. Right? So we bought a very particular product. We're looking for the easiest thing to sell, which is like a 2 to 4 bedroom house, 700 to 1,400 square feet, built, you know, at a certain age frame, single story. And you can keep it, rent it, you can flip it, you can move in it. It's something that everybody wants. Everybody wants a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house.
Right.
So that's what we went after. We just said, well, let's just buy those. Every time the phone rings, we know that the seller has that. So all we got to do is figure out what it's worth, make an offer on it, and if they say yes, we know who our buyers are. So we would just call one up and say, here's the house, you want it? Yeah. And the other thing that people were doing And I don't know if we're the first to do it, but everybody would be like, well, I bought this house and I want 105 on it, right? You bought it 100, sent out for 105. So I was just like, why are we doing that? Why do I got to tell people what? They go to auctions and bid on houses. They look at stuff in the MLS, and just because they have a price on it, they ignore it. They write an offer on what they're willing to pay for it. Let's just tell them, you tell us what you'll pay for it. So here we are thinking, well, it's a $100,000 house. We'll sell it for 105. We'll get a $5,000 wholesale fee, and we send it over to our buyers. Like the 4 or 5 people that we actually sell to, and he comes back. He's like, I'll pay you 130 for it. Well, suddenly we just went from making $5,000 a deal to 30,000 a deal.
Wow!
Right? Just because we changed one more thing.
Yep.
So now I'm not looking at houses. I'm not meeting sellers. I'm sitting in an office all day, basically answering the phone, making verbal offers, and selling houses for. 5 times what I was getting.
Wow.
So we're doing $30,000 wholesale fees, $45,000 wholesale fee. Consistently doing our average wholesale fee over a 2-year period was like $15,300 or something.
Wow. And that's such a unique style, but that came from people. You weren't an overnight success with that. They came from you learned all these things. You learned different styles.
Years
from
in the
different
making.
people. Years in the making.
Years
Which
in the making.
comes back to your original point earlier, where you're talking about people end up at the wholesaling, right? Because it takes. You can start there, but it takes all that expertise, and it's way upriver, as you say. Everything else floats downriver.
And we didn't want to rehab and flip because again, he had some financial challenges, so he basically had no money. And I didn't want to rehab and flip because I just don't like doing it, and I didn't want to be putting all the money into the deals. I was like, well, let's just wholesale it and keep some rentals, and we'll start building some capital. But you're coming from 2 guys that had done dozens and dozens of deals before. He had done 30-something deals before we partnered up. So he didn't just show up to the game and be like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no money. He was a very experienced guy. Right? He was doing he was just doing the wrong business model.
Right.
But he had sold a lot of houses and made a lot of money, right? So it's just he'd gotten into some deals, and the market is what crushed him. It wasn't him. It was the strategy he used at the time in the market. That's what sunk his ship. That was it. And for me, it was just inconsistency of deals. I had partnered with one guy, and we did some stuff that was really good, and every year we did like $100,000 rehab and flip, so that was enough money to keep me, I'd get 50 grand out of that, he'd get 50 grand. I could survive on that, but I didn't have the consistent good deal flow. And again, it goes back to the time in the market. You're talking about 2005, 6, 7, 8, the market's dropping. It's terrifying to make an offer because you offer this today, but by the time the house is up and on the market, it's probably worth what you offered, never mind all the money you put in to rehab it. But there were still ways to buy and rehab and flip houses in that horrible market. There were still plenty of people who were buying houses.
So what are some of your biggest takeaways? Why are you successful where other people fail? Because you're a real estate success story, right? But you didn't start that way. I mean, we went over your background in detail. Why are you successful and other people aren't?
Well, I'm extremely driven, number one, and I'm not afraid to fail at all. If I get involved in a deal and I get wiped out, I'll be upset, but I'm not going to like, I got to go to Home Depot now and get a job. Yeah. I just go out and try it again, try again. You can't fail if you don't quit. So you might lose this battle, but the war ain't over.
Yeah.
You can always get back up, and if you have that kind of reputation that, hey, this guy gets it done, I might have blown up on that one deal and it sunk me, but I would never go all, like what I did then, I would never do now. I will not go all in on a deal now. I will not risk my entire portfolio, my financial security to do a deal. Yeah. Like I'm not going to go out and go all in on a $2 million house, right? I might get a lot of partners involved and do that, but I'm not going to do it myself and solo try to fund that and do the work and forget about it because it would sink me if it all blew up, if it didn't work out. So,
how about if you could go back and talk to yourself at 18 years old, knowing with what you know right now, what would you go back and say to yourself? What would you if you could write a letter to you as the country?
It would definitely be to read more better quality books. Like forget the fiction stuff. All that crap that I read was a waste of my time. It was entertainment, but to read a nonfiction or a fiction book, it takes dozens of hours to read maybe you can read a 300-page or a fiction book, a 300-page like Stephen King book. Sorry to throw him under the bus, but it'd probably take you 12 hours or something. I don't know exactly, but that's a huge investment of time in entertainment.
Yeah,
which gives you really no return.
Yeah,
I think it might be. Reading a book. You ever read a book and just been like, woohoo, I'm so entertained,
Yeah.
Never, right? There's some that I've read that I've literally laughed out loud, like Kurt Vonnegut stuff. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
It's very crude. Don't read it if you're
Yeah.
You know, but it's extremely crude, but it's absolutely laugh out loud funny. But I read that stuff when I'm on vacation.
Yeah. So you tell yourself, read more nonfiction books.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, when you go home at night, I've never been a big TV guy.
Do you have a TV? Do you have cable right now?
No, I don't even have it. I have a TV in my living room that is so old that you couldn't get it to work if you tried. There's no cable that'll hook up to it. It's a really old TV, and it's really there just kind of as a maybe a conversation piece, but it's just so we don't look weird. Like you come in, there's no TV.
Yeah, of course you have a TV.
Right? The TV's like got the big back. It's like old, and it's only like this big, but it's just there. And there's actually a VCR, and you can play VHS tapes on it. I have a few VHS tapes that you could watch, but I don't ever use it. It's just there, and it sits there.
What else would you tell yourself at 18? Reading books, nonfiction, education, anything else that you would like to tell yourself?
I went through a phase where I really did kind of divorce myself from the people that I was really close friends with, who and when you're 18, it's a lot harder to do that because you have these adolescent bonds to people that and that's good to have those people, but
you're talking about your reference group, your peer group,
yeah,
right?
It's to surround yourself with when you're 17, 16, it's okay to be a goofball and do all that stuff. You're a kid. You only get one shot at being a kid. So all in, be a kid. Enjoy that stuff. Go crazy, waste your weekends, do whatever, sleep late, watch cartoons, whatever it is kids do. Do that and enjoy the heck out of it. But when you turn 18, it's time to realize the youth is over, and I really need to have a better outlook on my long-term outlook on where I want to end up, because you're an adult a whole lot longer than you are a child.
So you're surround yourself with people who you want to be like.
Stop spending your weekends messing around with your goofy friends, and maybe get involved with the people. And it might not be real estate. Maybe you want to become the best electrician in town. Well, go go find the guy that you want to become and say, hey man, I'll sweep your shop floor. I'll do it for free. I just want to hang out around electricians. I want to be a good electrician. Give me what did I call it earlier? Not a mentorship, but
internship.
Yeah, give me an internship. Let me come in here and sweep floors. If you're willing to teach me a little bit, I'll clean your floors. I'll wash your trucks.
Wow.
You have the nicest looking trucks in town, but just can you teach me some stuff on the side too?
Do it to learn.
So whatever that business is, it doesn't have to be real estate. Whatever it is, So hey, I just want to learn. I'll do filing, I'll do data entry, whatever it is. I had a friend who wanted to go to work for the Boston Red Sox, and I was like, well, dude, cool. you're not setting yourself up to go do that. If you want to go do that, go knock on the door and say, well, I don't have any skills, but I'll do whatever it takes.
And that guy gets in. Everybody thinks they have to walk in the front door. A lot of times you can go in the back door by just saying, everybody else goes through, go to school, get an education, build your resume. Well, the guy that just walks in the back door and says, I'll work for free.
Oh, well, this guy that I'm talking about, he started in the mailroom at a company. Right, so he got into the mailroom. He's still at the company. He's a high-level executive, making a really solid
if
6
you're
figures a year.
And you're one of those guys that's going to prove yourself, just get in the door.
So he went
to the top, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that too, I want to, what would you tell yourself at 18, I guess, but also right now, what are things that you do every day that because you're a successful guy.
I'm not gonna blow smoke and say I do this every day, but there's things I try to do every day.
Okay, it's things that you try to do every day.
So,
do you think would foster success or have fostered your success?
So I think in everybody's day there's something that you won't give up for any price.
Right.
So for me, priority number one is my health. Priority number one. It's more important than anything else out there. It's more important than family. It's more important than money. And the reason why I say that is, what good am I to my family if I'm drastically ill because I've not taken care of myself? I'm a burden to them now, right? So priority number one, I have to take care of my health. So I work out. I try to work out every day. And I put it, when I go to the gym, I'm at the gym to be at the gym. I don't go to the gym to socialize and to stare at myself in the mirror. I go to the gym to get my sweat on, and I work my butt off when I'm at the gym. So for me, and that and eating right. Like, I don't drink soda. I try not to eat any sugar. I don't eat salt. Now for the last year, I haven't eaten any red meat. I just decided I want to cut that out. I try not to eat any fried foods. So it's kind of strict, but at the same time, I really enjoy the things that I do eat. But it's about, I look at labels, I read stuff. I don't want to eat any hydrogenated corn something or other, So like this morning we went to the restaurant, and I looked and at the jelly, and people think, oh, it's just a little jelly. Well, a great book to read is what is that? Sorry, my train of thought keeps getting.
No, you're right.
compound effect.
Yeah.
Right?
So I love that. We haven't even talked about this. I love that.
The whole idea behind the compound effect. Okay, so you eat a donut once a week. No big deal. Really?
Right.
Well, at the end of the year, let's put a pile of 52 donuts on the table. Is it really no big deal? Really?
You did all that.
52. Yeah, you can. So you did that and are complaining about your health, and then I didn't do that, and my body didn't have to process all those 52 donuts. Who is going to have a better chance for long-term success if all else is equal? Like I don't get run over by a train.
You know, that's true for health. That's true for your
exercise.
Everything. For everything. For
my mom, right?
Stuff, right?
With the Christmas
$1
club.
a day, saving versus
going
spending.
down, yeah.
Christmas club. That right there is like a key to life, which is awesome that you said that, because the compound effect, you're always doing something, and it's going to compound for the good or the bad.
Just a little bit, it goes a long way. Maybe you hate to work out. Okay, does it kill you if you look in my bag, I brought with me push-up, like little plastic push-up bars, right? So how long does it take to do 30 push-ups a day?
Right.
A minute? Yeah. So what if you say, all right, I'm going to do 30 push-ups every day before I get in the shower, and 30 sit-ups? Is it going to kill you? No, it's so easy. Yeah. 2 minutes, you can be done.
But that
do it every day. Man. That's a huge effect on you over a long-term period. Huge effect. So I just, I'm here. I'm not going to go to the gym and work out because I have a fairly weak immune system, actually. And when I travel, I don't sleep well. I get very, coming out here, I get very excited. And I slept, I think, probably 3 hours the night before. And when I do that and I travel, my immune system just shuts down. Yeah. So it's easy. I think you can hear it in my throat already. I feel like I'm fighting stuff off already. So I'm not going to go to the gym and do a full workout when I'm here or when I'm at a seminar or something. But I will bring my my push-up bars, little plastic ones I bought, and I'll bang out 50 push-ups, do some sit-ups. Like that's enough. Stretch out a little bit. That's enough. And so for me, priority number one, health, then family, and then finance. In that order as far as that stuff. So I got to take care of my health and make sure that I'm 100% so I can be there for my family if they need me. Take care of my financing, so if somebody does have a problem, I have the money that I can help them out and take care of that. Yeah. If I have any problems, I have the money that I can go deal with that stuff. Yeah. So, the things that I do every day, I try to get to the gym. I try to read something that will have some influence on me. So, for some people it's an educational thing. It might be educational and spiritual. Like you told me every morning you read, right. A little bit of both. So whatever that is, I try to read something that will bring value into my life, not entertainment. I don't really focus on a lot of entertainment. I don't really need to be entertained. I think just being alive is entertaining enough. I don't need more entertainment on top of that. Like for me, I love to drive. Love to drive. You give me the keys, I'll drive all day long. And people are like, well, why do you love to drive? Really? Why do you love to drive? I'm traveling down the highway, like this paved piece of ground at 70 miles an hour in this 1-ton vehicle. How is that not amazing? Wow. Right? How is that? I've driven across country 3 times. And I love it. I would do it again this weekend.
You're just an optimist. You're excited about life.
It's incredible. Every day is amazing.
You're grateful too. I mean, which is, you can tell you're a grateful person for what you have, right?
It's just every day is amazing. It's amazing. Even if you don't feel good, it's still amazing to be to see things and experience things. For me, life is about experiences. I'm always trying to live my life 110%. I'm out all in. I've taken an ultralight into Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines. Philippines. Yeah, I flew in an ultralight into Mount Pinatubo. Wow. I bungee jumped in Malaysia. Just done all these crazy
scuba
things.
Dive. I know
I've been scuba diving, and I've ridden a camel. I've ridden an elephant. Just I'm always trying to find.
Just want to do something new.
Yeah, just say, hey, look, that's crazy. Let's do that. That's a wild experience. It doesn't have to be dangerous. Riding a camel's not dangerous. Yeah. It could be just fun and just do something adventurous and fun. So for me, that's a long-term value for entertainment, and I'll do that. But I'm not going to sit home and watch the idiot sisters in Beverly Hills, whatever nonsense stupidity that they're doing. What do I care? Yeah. What do I want to watch that nonsense garbage for? And not only that, take away from my time while they get paid tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
So they're succeeding at their dreams, and I'm doing the exact opposite by being involved in that nonsense. Right. So I just don't have a TV because I don't want that negative influence over my life.
Talk to me about goals, the influence of goals in your life. We haven't talked about this.
I have a whiteboard. So I sit at a desk, and again, it's all about lifestyle. So my desk is literally one of those 6 foot long. I bought it at Staples, plastic top with the metal fold down. You would have them like a party.
Right.
That's my desk.
Okay.
Right. And the back is all books. and my laptop. And then above that is a whiteboard, and my goals are all written in big letters on that whiteboard.
Nice.
And
You're
I
staring
sit
at it
there,
every
and
day.
they're there every day.
Nice. How long have you been doing goals for?
Oh, since somebody first told me about it.
Yeah.
So, probably in the last 7 or 8 years. I wasn't doing it before. We talked about that. When I was a kid, I had no goals. I just knew that I wanted to get away from where I lived.
Yeah.
So that was my goal. And then once I achieved it, I was like, woohoo, I'm in San Diego. Now I just want to surf every day,
Yeah.
So
how has your life changed since you've been implementing goals?
Well, there's no greater feeling than erasing one.
Huh.
That's amazing when you're just like, took
Did
care of
that.
that,
Yeah.
and let's you replace it. Just wipe it out. Be like, I got no more goals. I'm finished. I'm knocking this lamp over. So I add a new one in. So goal. It gives you this benchmark to check your progress against. Because if you don't have goals, then what are you really doing? What are you shooting for?
Yeah.
So by putting my goals in writing on the board where my wife or anybody could walk in and see them, it's like, oh, that's what you're trying to do. So did you do that? Yeah. Well, this is up there because this was there and I did that and took care of it, and now I've added that in its place.
Okay, now I want to kind of get in summary here. So you're a guy from Massachusetts. Everybody knows your background now with this stuff. How does your life look different now, and how does it look different than kind of your siblings who have the same upbringing as you, the same opportunities as you, but you've shaped your life through all these things we've talked about? Who are you now? You have rental properties. You've flipped a bunch of properties. You wholesale a bunch of properties. You're a speaker. I mean, you've written a few, children's books we showed up. But just talk about those in general.
Don't talk about that. You have to edit this out. Yeah. We don't talk about that.
But talk to me about that, because you're the black sheep in your family. Nobody else is like that.
Yeah.
But you came and they look at you. We talked about this and say, well, I don't know if they think you got lucky or what.
It's funny, but I see the same level of drive in my sister, my half sister, that I have. But she's just on a different path. So she doesn't have this entrepreneurial drive, but I see her set goals and achieve those goals consistently again and again and again. She's very driven and she gets what she wants, and I really respect that about her. I think she's a very strong-willed, and maybe that's kind of something that's passed down from my grandmother through my mom to her, because my grandmother was an extremely driven person, from my opinion, and I think she was also in a sense kind of goal-oriented, and I think I get a lot from her. In that regards,
and she's successful too in her own right, probably.
Yeah, and same thing through. Well, she's no longer with us, but again, it went from my gram to my mom. I think it's not the male gene in my family. I think that's the male gene is more lazy and apathetic, and kind of the world's going to turn whether I do anything about it or not.
Right.
But I think the female side, the feminine side of my family, is very driven. So maybe I have more of that gene in me, where it's a very entrepreneurial driven, and maybe I just got a bigger dose.
Yeah.
Right. So because I'm the only entrepreneur in my family. I'm the only one who has his own business.
Talk about that too. I know it's hard for people to brag on themselves, but talk a little bit about where you are now, where you are today, right? The end story, like not the end, but at this point in time, your successes, you are self-made.
I think I've reached a plateau. And it's not the end plateau, but I've reached a plateau where could I stop working? Maybe. It would depend. I'd have to eliminate some expenses in my life, but I would never stop working. I don't think I'll ever stop doing what I do. But I'm definitely financially in a much better position than I would have been if I had just stayed the course of being the employee doing that thing. Even though I made a lot of money in the business that I was in, I wasn't on a track. I didn't understand tax benefits. I didn't understand all that stuff, and I paid a lot of money in taxes. I had to pay quarterly taxes because I was an independent contractor,
right?
As basically a sales rep doing contract negotiations. And every quarter I was paying tons of taxes. And I actually went to the CPA one time. I'm like, dude, this is horrible. I'm writing a check for $25,000. As a quarterly estimated tax. I'm like, what can I do? He's like, buy real estate.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the other things that kind of hit home to me. It's like, man, I need to look at the tax benefits of the things that I do.
Yeah.
So you start to get this bigger picture of how things are related to each other, how no matter what you do, the IRS is always your partner in everything that you do in business. So you have to take that into consideration and look at, well, what are the tax aspects of what I'm doing and how I'm running my business.
So you've today, you've probably been in real estate 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. You
bought my first property probably was in 2002, so it's 12 years now. But I wasn't.
That's true.
I wasn't a full time or anything like that. People always get this hang up about being full time, but you know what? I said this earlier, but if you got a good job that pays well and it gives you the things you need, like the challenge, the reward, because those are extremely important. I think those are more important than the financial. If you're going to a job every day that you make a ton of money at, but you're bored and you get nothing out of, you won't last.
Right.
Or you'll look back on a very miserable life. So if you have a job that's challenging, rewarding, and supplies you with the financial security that you need, stay the course. That's a great position to be in. That's a really, I mean, that's kind of like the three parts of a triangle. You've solved that. You've found that. And then do some real estate on the side.
Yeah,
so,
real estate's a vehicle, right, to get there. And I'm going to brag on you because I keep trying to get you to do it and you won't. You own a bunch of rental properties.
Yes.
You could, you basically, if you wanted to, you could stop working, and the passive income from that would fund your lifestyle.
Yes.
You're a multimillionaire. You flip.
But my monthly nut is extremely low. Like mine,
Right.
we talked about the other day, mine is like 40, I think a year ago it was 44. I think it's about 4,800 a month now is all I need that covers everything.
Right.
That pays my everything, my gas, my health, my dental, all the things that don't occur every year that, even those, so
you're not a consumer, but you built up a portfolio that can fund your lifestyle in perpetuity,
I have several million in real estate.
You're a multi-millionaire with real estate. You flipped probably hundreds of properties, or wholesale and retail, you probably flipped hundreds of properties. So you're a guy that was self-made. Your parents didn't give it to you.
No.
Your siblings don't share your same.
I paid my grand back that 10 grand. Actually.
Yeah, you're self-made. You bootstrapped it yourself, and you're the success story. Because everybody says, well, real estate success stories. You are a real estate success story, right? I mean, that's the whole point. And the things that you did it a different way. I don't look
at myself as that, though.
Nobody does, though. That's the thing.
I know that when I go out to a club, a real estate club,
and you speak at clubs,
and I speak there, and I think some people say, oh, I want to become that. I want what he has, but I look at what I have, and it's not that I want more, but I just want to. So let's say I don't know exactly how many houses I have, but let's say I have 40, right? And that's not a lot, but
that's a lot of houses.
I don't need 60, but I would rather upgrade those 40.
Right.
So if I have a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and out of those 40, maybe half of them are 3-bedroom, 1 baths, I'd rather have 40 3-bedroom, 2 baths, or 30 3-bedroom, 2 baths.
Right.
So I would like to consistently upgrade, and that's kind of the John Shaw business model, where he had a big portfolio, and then he parsed it down to, well, I want to own gated community, golf course, 3-bedroom, 2 or 4-bedroom, 3-bath houses, kind of in that range, higher end, bigger monthly income houses, and have less stress. And so, and I think that's kind of the evolution that you go to. I never look at, I'm done.
Yeah, you're not done, but I just look at this as saying, you are a huge real estate success story, right? When you were looking for people that were successful in those RIAs and the Shark Tank, you couldn't find one. You're now that person. You're a mentor to people. You coach people. You speak at things. You might be going into Panama this year to speak, and you've got enough rental, income to, passive income for the rest of your life. And you flipped hundreds of houses. You're a real estate success story, like huge, right?
Okay, so, if you say so.
But that's the thing. Nobody wants to brag on themselves. So I'm glad you got to share all this stuff, because you really are, and that's an inspiration to people. And they'll get to see those common denominators that you have, who you surround yourself with, educating yourself, and just taking action. You proved that from all those things. So I'm glad I got you to talk about yourself and do all that stuff.
It was a pleasure doing it. And I think the big takeaway is that people see me now, and if somebody sees me and say, oh, well, he does all this, or that, it didn't happen overnight. You get the whole story now, right? A lot of trial and error. I've lost money on deals. I lost a lot of money on some deals. But so what? It's money. I can go make more. Just go get another deal. It's no big deal. So you do a deal and it blows up in your face and you lose 10,000 and lost 20,000. Oh well. So we go and get another house, and if we don't have money to rehab and flip it, then we wholesale it, or we partner with somebody. We figure out how to get money back, and then we just start again.
The whole key, it's education, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they take it all away from you tomorrow, you're a multimillionaire with all these rental properties, all these things. If they take it all away tomorrow, you're gonna carry with you what was most important, right?
It's the knowledge never goes away.
The Jim Rohn quote, he talks about, I want you to go out there and make $1 million, not because of the $1 million, because once you make it, you can give it away. But it's what it took to become, what you became in that making that $1 million, and then after that, once you have that,
it's a formula,
have it, right?
Yeah, it's a formula. Once you figure out the formula,
yeah,
it's just a matter of, it's like making Kool-Aid.
It's a recipe,
you need sugar and red dye number 5, and you mix them in water, and you have Kool-Aid, right?
And once you can do it, you get to keep
Yeah.
it. You get to have that, and you can't have that. You know, the books and all the educational stuff. It's taking action and doing what you did. So, awesome, man. Props to you.
Cool.
It's
Well,
been
thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.